Warning. This podcast is about to open the sealed section of spirituality. Hey you, yeah you, we see you, you divine human being.
And we are calling you to come home.
We are ready to talk about the real shit. We're going to get real about life as a divine human being.
The good, the not so great, spirituality and taboo. Divinely Human is the podcast that's all about what it means to be human in a spiritual context.
We know it's not just about being spiritual, it's about being human too.
And that means changing poopy nappies and channeling angels.
Sometimes even at the same time. It's time for us to stop making other people's noise our own soundtrack of life.
Let's make some waves together so that we can all ride them together and create deep resonance, a sense of home in this crazy world.
Pour yourself a coffee
or a glass of wine if that's your potion,
and sit down with your new favorite spiritual sisters
as we go on a journey together into what it means to be
a divine human being
on this spiritual journey.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode on the Divinely Human podcast. My name is Tanita.
And I'm Aleisha.
And you guys just got to miss out on a really beautiful burp from Aleisha before we begun. That was magnificent. Thanks for sharing.
Just setting the frequency.
Yeah, we've literally spent the last 17 minutes trying to get sorted. So that's where we're at today. We're here. We showed up. I feel like that really counts for something today.
I mean, the fact that we're sitting here recording is a miracle in itself. Why does it feel like Friday?
Oh my
It's only Monday. I asked my doctor this morning what day it was, and he looked at me like horrified.
Oh, the joys of the past couple of months have just completely thrown us out of whack. But it feels like a Friday for me too. It's so weird.
Time, man. Time.
Literally. Oh, well, I actually voice noted you the other day. I have had the weirdest couple of weeks in general, health-wise, with family and stuff. And a lot of shadow for me personally has been coming up, and I wanted to get your perspective on the thought around freedom. And I thought maybe we could bring the conversation to the Divinely Human podcast, because I know I'm not the only one who may be questioning what freedom means and whether it actually can truly be attained in a soulful-led business as a soulful entrepreneur. And so I'm curious to just hear your perspective on things, because after you voice noted me back, it actually really helped me. And I think this conversation can help a lot of people.
Yeah. And I mean, just touching in on what we were voice noting about after you asked me that the other night, we kind of got into this conversation around like the fact that freedom is different for everybody. And not only that, but there's a whole compendium of what that means for you depending on what day it is, or where you're at, or what your energetic levels are and what you're moving through. So I definitely think it's something worth diving into and exploring a little bit, because at the end of the day, I mean, we're all here trying to run business. Well, not all of us, but some of us who are listening to this, I'm assuming, are here trying to run businesses and are, successfully running businesses. Others might be just struggling at times, as we all do, but it's just really important to touch in on the fact that, like, why are we here? Why are we doing what we're doing? And why does it always feel like no matter what, I don't know about you, but I always feel like always one step away from being like what I believe to be, in a successful, balanced position. It's like I feel like I'm always just chasing it and I'm just there, but something's always kind of either coming up or, I'm moving through something that makes things a little bit more complicated or complex, and it's just not as easy as what I imagined it would be before I started this business. So definitely interested to open this conversation up.
Yeah, I really resonate with what you were just saying too, because I feel very similar. I feel like I get a picture in my head around what will fulfill me or what will feel really good and what would really support me, what my idea of success is during that season. And then for me, it shifts so drastically, not even from season to season, but literally day to day. And it's like, how can we find that balance between what we need, one, on a basic human survival level, and then two, like what fulfills us, what completes us, and what creates, what we actually desire to see in the world. And when you said like freedom is different for everyone, that really hit me because it's so true. But it's like freedom is different to me every day. Like that changes so much. And I guess I'm just at this point of like toying with the universe around what would that actually look like? A business that supports freedom evolving from day to day. And is that something that we can actually achieve? I hope and there's faith in my heart that it can be because I'm all about that ease. But I don't know. I'm like, seems like far reach at the same time, and that's a really, really hard thought for me to wrap my head around.
Yeah, it's funny as well. And I think that it's really important to move into like, opening up the conversation as well around how we have moved through our what we perceive to be freedom when it comes to running a business as well. And it's funny, when I first started this business, freedom to me was being like financially stable. Um, and now once like obviously once I've started it and I'm years into running it, now for me it is finding balance. Finding balance and finding freedom and still having time for myself. That like just even the thought of having time for myself is what I perceive freedom to be when running a business now. So it's funny how much it's actually shifted from that perception and then now. And then in between those two polarities, what comes up for me is these days where I'm kind of moving in through these extreme highs and lows of what I perceive freedom to be, depending on my energetic levels. So on the day where, say, I'm feeling really exhausted, I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, like I just wish I had the freedom just to sit in bed all day and do nothing. Or it could be a week that maybe a lot has come up for me financially. And I'm like, okay, like freedom to me feels this week like, not having to hustle so hard and just having maybe more residual income coming through. So it's just really interesting how it's just never one perception of it. Do you agree?
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. And I think all of us have this idea in mind when we launch our business around what that looks like or what the end kind of journey would be in business. And I'm surprised by how much that changes too. Like the reason why I started my business is so different to why I'm continuing to run my business. And it looks so different. And there's a part of me that thinks, well, do you need consistency in order to create what you first desired, or is change okay? And like, can we really accept rapid change too? Because you're like me, I love to change my mind sometimes. I'm a woman, like it changes, depends on my emotion and my energy and depending on what I need. And I'm like, I guess I'm just curious as to whether businesses can move as fast as I change.
Mm, yeah. That I think that also is something that contributes to feeling behind the ball all of the
Yes.
time, because you are feeling really like you're trying to chase something. And then as soon as you feel like you attain it, it's like something else surfaces
Yeah.
up and you're like, oh, I just need that to feel stable or to feel freedom come through in my business. Um, it's really interesting. And to be honest, I feel like that's what keeps the drive in some sense, even like as frustrating as it is. I think building a relationship with chasing that is what keeps you inspired and motivated within your business. But at the same time, I understand that it can get quite exhausting and you're just like, fuck this. I don't want to do this anymore. Or you just feel like you're beating your head against a brick wall sometimes, when it comes to pushing so hard to acquire a certain feeling or even a goal within your business. It can feel really, really frustrating at times, but I guess that feeling of being behind the ball really does serve a purpose to some degree. And it makes me really curious actually to see like what it would feel like to feel like you have
Everything.
Yeah, everything, or like made it, or, an accumulation of all of those things that make you feel like you've acquired success and you don't need to like push any harder or all of those things. Like I wonder how people keep the drive and the motivation when you get to that point business wise. I'm just really curious.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, that's partly what makes a good business owner and a good entrepreneur is that drive and that desire to continue to evolve and chase the next thing. And it comes with balance, especially if you're running a conscious business, an intuitive business. There's a fine line between being really harsh on yourself and continuously chasing after things and not, creating time for celebration and praise versus growth, evolution, change, reaching goals, and creating that time and space. So, yeah, I find it really interesting. I find it really interesting. But, after we had the conversation in our voice messages, I was like, I'd love to, because at that point in time, I was really thinking about, you know what? I'd love a mentor. I think I'm like at that point in time where I'd really appreciate a business mentor. But then I was like, all of them preach freedom. And then after we had that conversation, I was like, but how do they know? Like, how do I know they can help me with my version of freedom? And
Mm.
it just like brought so many more questions into the space around this. And I think this is why having clarity in self is so important before going and seeking out a big relationship like that. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy like now to think about it.
That actually opens up a can of worms in terms of working with coaches because I'm going to go ahead and say probably 95% of coaches that I see in this industry sell their own blueprint,
Yes.
which comes with a set of their own personal values, a set of their own personal aspirations and morals. And I think as well, not 95%, but maybe like 50% of that 95%, it just preaches like hustle, 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 hustle. Like, and I think that that's like part of the zeitgeist in this modern world is like, if you're going to run a business, you have to hustle. Like, oh my God, was it just a few months ago that interview with Kim K came out where she was like, if you want something, get up and fucking work.
I know. She got
I forget what
absolutely
she said.
slammed. Yes.
What did she say exactly?
No,
I forget
literally
what her
that. She's like, you got to get your fucking ass up and work.
and work.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and then she's sitting there completely like privileged and all of that and all of the rest. But I just think that is such like that interview was such a metaphor for a lot of the coaches in the industry when it comes to mentoring other people with their businesses, because a lot of them are quite privileged and have a lot of access to success already. It's very cliquey, but that is like that is another can of worms altogether. But I completely agree with what you said there in terms of that, because how do you know that your perception of freedom is going to be catered for when you're working with somebody? And the need to see, I'm actually really happy that I didn't when I first started my business that I didn't go straight out and get a business coach.
Yeah.
I'm I I didn't even think of it because it wasn't really a thing when I first started my business. But I see so many people who start up their businesses and automatically go out and pay for a coach. And then I kind of see like the rapid high of them working with the coach, and then they kind of reach the top and then they flatline. And then once that is cut off and they come back into their own energy and presence, it's like nothing happened,
Yeah.
because they're kind of spoon fed someone else's, energy and perceptions and values and morals and all of the rest for that time period. And then when that ends, they've had no actual experience in running a business and navigating, their own values. So I actually really am glad that you and I didn't rush into that. And I guess we haven't really yet.
Yeah.
Because it is nice to know that you've come to your own understanding of like what's important to you before you immerse yourself in what's important to everyone else and what they want to teach you and what someone else thinks is important that before you learn at least a little bit of that yourself.
Yeah. I'm really, really glad you brought that up because I was going to say, I feel like this conversation almost circles back to the conversation we were having around, excuse me, like the fortune teller is dead, and how, as a collective right now, we're getting so used to paying somebody else to give us the answers that we know we can seek for ourselves. And that's almost like the conversation here, too. It's like we're putting so much responsibility on everybody around us to give us their blueprint of success that, like you said, when the ties are cut, we forget, and we haven't built all of that resiliency. We haven't wired all of those connections to actually truly run a business by ourselves. And so this conversation is just reminding me that, like, it's okay to feel like you're failing. Like, this is part of the journey. Part of the journey is figuring out how to wipe your own knees up and how to get up. It's not always about looking outside of yourself for the answers. And while I totally think support is absolutely amazing, I just think that the way we're getting support is going to be changing. And I think that the reason why we're getting support is going to be changing on a collective level. But it's hard to remember in the moment. Like, it really truly is. It's hard to remember that when you feel like this is so hard and I feel like I'm behind the eight ball. So, yeah, this has brought up a lot for me.
Yeah. And just thinking and hearing you speak about that as well has brought up so much um, thought around the ideal client as well. Because I know that both of us next year are going to be, stepping into more helping people business wise and things like that, rather than one-to-one readings and things like that. And what that has just brought up for me is the fact that I don't really feel aligned to work with people that have just started a business, like, in, the last few months or whatever. What I really, really want to do and focus on is actually work with people who have navigated their own business and moved through, with their own direction and their own values first for, a substantial amount of time, but then feel like they need to come in and ask for support in maybe to grow on top of a foundation that they've already been able to build themselves. Because I find working with people who haven't spent the time to build a foundation, whatever that foundation looks like for them, it doesn't mean they need to find success or that they need to have like a certain amount of, a number under their belt or anything. That just means that they've spent time in their own business building something or attempting to build something with meaning and value, instead of wanting us to come in and build that for them or tell them how to build that. Because I really do believe that that is something that needs to be built by you and you alone. Otherwise, you may as well not be running your own business. You may as well just work for someone else, because that's basically what you're doing when you're following someone else's building plans when it comes to your business. So that's actually brought me a lot closer to my vision for 2023 when it comes to ideal clientele, because that's a big one.
It is. And you know what? It's interesting because I feel completely opposite to you. And I love that we have a differing perspective on this. It's just like totally fine, right? For me, I feel like I'm still more drawn to people who are just launching their business because part of me doesn't want them to feel like they have to pay for the success blueprint or feel like they have to follow the roadmap. And I feel like I could be a great support system as they figure out that journey by themselves and just get them to realize that it's not about what other people's success looks like. It's about what you are feeling and maybe supporting them in creating that resiliency. So I love that we have like kind of come to a bit more clarity around who we do want to serve and maybe the reason why. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I really love that actually. And I think that they both do serve a purpose.
Yeah.
But it also, funnily enough, I know that we'll both move into it with integrity and understanding and not just selling someone else's blueprint that we've learned of someone else either.
Yes, and that's the thing, right? Like nothing is your own, I swear. Like you are paying for somebody else's blueprint, but they've learned it off all of their mentors and
Mm,
it's just all differently woven together. So that's interesting. I
mm,
think this is why maybe we haven't felt called to open up those containers together just yet, because
yeah.
we are still clarifying and getting in true integrity. And that's something that's really important to both of us, I know, is not just pumping offerings out there for the sake of putting them out there and then not having the ethics and integrity behind it. So I'm so curious to see how this unfolds next year. But I know that for me, that support will come from a really unobstructed kind of viewpoint. And I never now, especially, want to impede my version of freedom and success onto somebody else. And that's going to have to come across with a lot more clarity because, truthfully, as a human being, today's age, we do want those fast results. And I'm like, how are we going to help people to understand that the journey is long and it's okay, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I'm really interested to know like what your perception of freedom has been the last few months, just moving through what you've been moving through business wise, personal life wise. Like, how have you been reflecting on freedom and what does that mean to you?
I think for me, it's been time and finances. Those are the two major things. So much has happened in the last couple of months where having a solid routine in place and a schedule done isn't something that is sustainable for me. I've had to drop my things and run to a hospital more than I can count in these past couple of months. So structure and consistency hasn't been my idea of freedom, but rather space and a flexibility as well. That's been something that's been really, really important to me. But it's like, how do you marry that with consistent income, right? Like, how do you marry complete flexibility with consistent finances? And that's something that I'm trying to weave together lately. It's coming together
Mm.
slowly, but something that I'll continue to explore next year, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I know that you did mention that and about wanting to move more into building more residual income and
Yeah.
having pre-established things available so that you're not always giving time, like your time, like in the now, in person, constantly while you're trying to navigate like a promotion at your corporate job,
Yes.
trying to run a family, trying to be, a partner, a mom, all of the rest, and then also have time for yourself as well to look after your health and meet those goals as well. So I think that that's definitely a big one. that feels like freedom to me too,
Yeah.
to be honest. Just to have the freedom of knowing, knowing that I can give without always having to show up in like the present moment.
Yeah.
I think is a
Yeah.
big thing that I've been working on, and but I also struggle so much with as well, because I feel like I'm always, and I know that it's definitely just a personal thing and a personal block that I'm moving through, but when it comes to doing pre-established, content and things like that, I always feel like I'm always like never giving enough.
Yeah.
Do you feel that? Like I'm always like, oh, it's not enough. Like I'm not giving them enough. I just want to give people more, but there's literally no way to pack more into what I'm doing. Like
Yeah.
then you'd have to show up in person, and I'm like, well, I don't want to do that all the time. But this is the reason why we're doing this. So I think that's definitely a really interesting block that I'm trying to move through, and hopefully will have worked my way through by next year, so that I can just create content and have it available and feel really like a sense of freedom about that and not guilt. I just feel like I'm so this big thing with guilt lately about feeling bad, like I'm not doing enough, I'm not giving enough to anyone, so I think that that's a big one.
Yeah, I hear you. And I think it's really interesting to see, like, this is what freedom means to me, and then the underlying shadow beneath it. Because mine has been flakiness. Like, I never want to be seen as flaky because to me, that means somebody who's not in responsibility. And
Mm.
like, I hold a lot of responsibility for what I do. This work is sacred and near and dear to my heart, and I want to be in integrity with that. But truthfully, creating that inconsistent workflow and availability kind of feels flaky. And I'm not going to lie. And that's just my own shadow, right? There's my own perception of what that looks like for me. So it makes sense that I can't fully step into that because there's still that part of me that wants to hold back from that. So that's kind of what I'll be focusing on lately is that. But in terms of creating content and not being there in a live setting, I actually really value that from other people. So it's interesting that you have a different kind of perception on it in terms of like, well, I don't feel like I'm giving enough because I
Mm.
really value being able to sign up for somebody's workshop, watching the replay, being able to fast forward some things, or even receiving a reading via like distance, a recording of a reading. I really value that because my time is so like weirdly placed that I have to put
Yeah.
it in different pockets. So I'm curious as to like, yeah, like maybe
Yeah.
why you would value that too.
Well, it's actually really funny. While you were speaking just then, I was thinking about a conversation that I had with, I guess you could say, one of my colleagues in this space. And we were talking about pricing and like when it comes to showing up live or being more of a recorded setting. And she was talking about how she was actually working with like a financial coach or whatnot, that is, you know, directed at working with people within this industry. And she was saying that she felt, like my friend was saying that she felt guilty, or like it wasn't like the content and the way that she was showing up. If it was recorded, it wasn't like she felt like it wasn't as meaningful, it wasn't worth as much. And this financial coach, she turned around and she said, well, no, you should actually be, you know, if not charging more for a recorded or, something that is done and sent out to you, because you actually have that to hold on to forever. You have like a physical thing to refer back to, not just once in the moment, but however many times you would like. You have it there for life. You don't have to keep, it's like a one-off payment and you have access for the rest of your life. So she was like, you need to get that out of your head and actually, if not, charge more for something that people can keep forever and keep referring back to. So to me, I think that conversation was really valuable when it comes to predetermining, that hesitancy around, wanting to do like something that will bring through residual income in terms of content, in terms of how I'm showing up and what I want to create. I think that was really valuable, because now I'm kind of forcing myself to come in from an angle where I'm thinking, yeah, no, that is right. Like, this person has this forever. They get to walk away with this forever. So I'm feeling inspired now after that, and really starting to see, it flood through in other areas of this space, just how valuable it is to have those bits of information available to us at like the click of a mouse button, or like just to be able to download and listen to or read, or, just immerse in. So, yeah.
I totally freaking agree. Like, totally, because you're right. Like, one-off payment, you get to refer back to it. And I've had clients tell me this reading has literally become their Bible, and they refer to it like every day when they're going through something. And that is just so heartwarming. But it's true, when you're in a live setting, you have to like scribble down notes like crazy. And so you never really get to experience that whole situation all over again. So I think it's totally more valuable to get things recorded. And I think since COVID, so much has changed in terms of not being able to show up live, and more people connecting from overseas. So yeah, I'm really excited to see where 2023 will take us, but I know
Yeah.
there's so much shifting, like, and in such a short
Yeah.
amount of time too.
And it's really interesting to see like the industry, how many people are shifting at the moment.
Yeah.
I've seen so many people kind of shifting through the structures of what their business was. And so many of like our colleagues have realized that, you know, they're not showing up how they want to, or they want to, do something a different way, or they've kind of have a different perspective on what freedom is to them. And also what freedom is, their perceived vision of what freedom is for the people that they're here to serve as well. So they're shifting how they want to show up in that, those regards as well.
Yeah.
And I think that it's been more or less like a collective movement that's been happening at the moment in the space. And it's really interesting to look at, because it's happening everywhere and it's really inspiring.
Yeah, it is. And just on this topic, like, I stumbled across a really beautiful business. They're actually a podcast editing studio. I wanted to just see what they were all about. And anyway, they have this whole kit, like a whole media kit to get you off social media. And it's like a support kit to have your business exist off social media, but still bring in all of the consistent like clients and prospects. And I was like, this is
Wow.
wild, because I mean, you and we've both built our businesses on social media. It's just
Mm-hmm.
so interesting to see a technology-based business, and one that offers virtual experiences, actually be offered like off social media. I thought that was really
Mm.
interesting.
That's really interesting. And I know so many people that are kind of sick of it and want
Yeah.
to come off social media. I messaged one of my friends the other day. I was like, "Where are you?" She's like, "Girl, I'll be back, but I need to be off this space. Like, I can't be here.
Yeah.
I'll come back soon, but I just can't." So I think that there are a lot of people that that it isn't the right fit for them. And I don't want to say it's not the right fit for anyone. I actually enjoy it.
Yeah. Still, really?
Like, I yeah, like I have my days, but I also love the closeness, and I love the community, and I haven't experienced anything that feels as much like a community as what it does for me. Like I've done groups, I've done like all sorts, like networks, like all sorts of different platforms, and nothing feels as close near. And I've never made as many like friends and connections as of what I've made here. So for me, it's something that it frustrates me. And sometimes I find it really difficult to navigate in terms of audience and reach and things like that. But like if we take the, if we take the, what's it called? Oh my goodness. What is it called?
I can't help you. I'm sorry. I have no idea.
Like the rules they make.
Oh, yeah.
Like the rules that, oh my God, what's it called?
Algorithm?
The algorithm. Oh my goodness. We need some music playing through that while I just think about what the word is. But if we just like throw the algorithm out the window, it's actually quite a pleasant space. And I don't mind it because I don't actually like, I literally just, I don't follow anyone that I don't necessarily like.
Yeah.
So, and I don't really explore too much in there when it comes to like looking at other people's pages a whole lot of the time. So I'm not really exposed to anything that doesn't like necessarily align with me. So
Yeah.
I really enjoy it and it works for me, but I can really see how that's not for everyone. It's different for everyone. So we
I think
need
I got to do a
options.
social media cull because lately I just feel like there's so much like acting on there almost. Like it's
No,
really
yeah.
hard for me to find those authentic connections between people who are running a business and trying to make prospective clients. Like I can't tell you the amount of times I've had a conversation with like another coach or somebody else in the industry, and then later on for them to try and sell to me. And I'm like, oh, I thought we
Mm,
had something good going. And you just ruined it by saying like breaching my like DM privacy and like trying to sell to me. And that is something that I never want to portray in on social media. So I'm like, that's the kind of struggle that I'm getting at the moment is I never want somebody to think that I'm not who I am, but at the same time, I am running a business and I am trying to make sales. I am trying to get my offers in front of people because I know they can support and assist people. Like I know they're helpful. So that's
mm.
what I feel a lot of the stickiness is coming from. But I think it's like all personal stuff, you know?
Yeah, and it's finding the balance between those two things that it's really important to do in
Yeah.
the space because it is a really fine line between being really salesy and like not jumping on and sharing who you are with someone and just showing up and being like, I want to sell you this. But then also there's the other end of that as well, where you feel like you're giving way too much and it's like, I just want privacy.
Yeah.
So having that balance is really important. But I mean, like, God bless close friends list.
Yes, I was just about to say that's so true. I need to utilize that a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, I can still share like those things that I probably wouldn't share to my whole community on there,
Yeah.
and still feel like I'm being professional, and not that I give a fuck about being professional, but it's God, you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean. Like coming across like corporate suit and tie.
Like we just need a nice balance there.
Yes, I agree.
Oh, no. But in saying all of this, I am really looking forward to next year. And feel like we've said this the last 3 episodes.
So we're like, oh, give us a break already.
We're like, is it 2023 yet?
It's close. It is so close. I can smell
Oh,
it.
oh my goodness. Honestly, I'm pretty sure that we have maybe like 4 or 5 more episodes until we take a break as well.
Yes. Do you want to tell them about the exciting thing to watch out for? Do you remember? Okay, I will let you know. We are
I'm
gonna
excited to hear this.
we're excited and we are gonna be doing a giveaway for the end of the year. Remember?
Yes.
I was like,
that.
shit, did I dream about this? On
No,
our last couple of episodes, we want to send you guys away with a little bit of fun because we will be taking a little bit of a break over January. We need a little bit of a break, and I feel like everybody needs a little bit of a break, but we want to connect with you guys. So more details of that will be coming out super soon. But yeah, we've only got a couple of more in the bank before next year rolls around. So definitely keep your eye out for that giveaway. It'll be very fun and Christmas themed, I reckon.
I think so too. I can't believe I forgot.
We only had like literally 30-second conversation about it on voice memos that get lost in the ether as soon as you
I
listen.
know. And we agreed so fast about it. We're like, yes. And then you were like, yes. And we're like, cool. And then we moved on to the next thing. You know, it was like a one and done sort of combo, that one. So, but we are excited. We are super excited for that. So keep an eye out for that as well, because that will be being announced very, very soon. But this has been a good chat.
Yeah.
I feel like this has been a really good chat. Really, really important chat. Yeah. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in, for listening, sitting down with us. And you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and of course YouTube, and at Divinely Human Podcast on Instagram too. And please, 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 for the love of everything good in the universe, rate us.
Yes.
Rate us.
We want to hear. We are so curious about how we're doing.
No, please. Yeah, it really means the world to us. So please leave a review or rate us. Give us 5 stars. And yeah, it goes a really long way. So thank you guys. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.